Hi, I'm Marlena,
I'm Tanya. I'm Serene.
and for our research proposal, we decided to look at is there a difference in the activity of a convicted murderer versus healthy average person's brain? For our background information, we decided to look at Dr. Keel's studies of fMRI scans. His scans proved that parts of the brain will light up when shown certain images. And through these scans, he also found that convicted murderers' brains may or may not light up at certain images. We were able to conduct this study by having two control groups, the first being the healthy average control group, which is 30 to 40-year-old males with no kids, no psychological family history, no personal mental health history, and no head injuries.
The second control group are the convicted murderers. These are also 30 to 40-year-old males, no kids, and no head injury as well. So the purpose of our study was to see and find the difference in the activity of a healthy person's brain and a convicted murderer's brain. The significance of the study would be just to help us become more knowledgeable about how the brain works, involving different types of people and groups of people. Our research question was, what is the difference between a healthy individual's brain activity and a convicted murderer's brain activity? And our hypothesis is, if a convicted murderer and a healthy individual are tested for their brain activity using an fMRI, then we will see how the brains do have a difference in their results. So our methodology, the subjects of the study included the 25 individuals in the healthy average control group and 25 individuals in the convicted murderer control group. First, we checked to make sure that in both control groups they were 30 to 40-year-old, male, and didn't have kids. Mental screenings were conducted on the healthy average individuals to determine whether or not they currently have any type of mental illness like depression, anxiety, or personality disorders in order to decide whether or not they were eligible to be a part of the study. Background checks and mental health records were conducted on the healthy average control group to allow us to determine whether or not they're eligible by allowing us to see if they had maybe past mental illnesses that could cause an issue with the results, or even if they had family members that had mental illnesses that could possibly be passed down. We also looked into both groups' medical records to make sure they never experienced any head injuries that could possibly cause mental problems, that could cause fluctuations in the experiment results. After the individuals in both control groups were tested and we made sure they met the requirements, they were asked to fill out and sign paperwork. The paperwork included for both groups were to fill out and sign consent papers, which were papers that allowed us to be able to conduct the fMRI scans and studies, to use the data, along with consent forms allowing us to be able to publish the data we gathered from them. The convicted murderer control group would need to have special consent forms signed from their prison in order to have permission to participate in this experiment and permission to be taken to the hospital location that experiments were going to be conducted at. In order to avoid errors from inconsistency throughout our experiment, we will be using the same doctors to conduct the fMRI scans while using the same equipment in the same hospital. That way we don't have different models or age machines that could cause fluctuations in the results. We want to keep the variables as consistent as possible. So for the experiment, it will involve the use of functional magnetic resonance imaging, also known as fMRI. The individual being tested will be shown a particular picture, and the fMRI scan will scan the brain activities. The fMRI works by detecting changes in blood oxygenation and flow that occur in response to a neural activity. When a brain area is more active, it consumes more oxygen, causing blood to flow to that particular area. This machine creates images of how the brain is responding, which create brain activation maps. And this provides us insight on how memories are formed, how pain and emotion can affect someone, things like that. By looking at how both groups' results from the fMRI differ, we can provide insight to help understand how the brain works, specifically looking at convicted murderers' brains compared to healthy average brains.
The roles and responsibilities of this study are to provide information about the study. That way people know what's going on, what it's about. The second one would be to share the results. Obviously, everybody that's like in the medical field or just regular citizens need to know what came out of it and how it ended up helping. The third one would be to complete the study as thorough as possible. This is important because you can't really do these studies all the time, so do it as good as you can from the first try. Then the impact and implications for the study would be a possible scientific improvement over the human brain. human brain is something not a lot of people know about, but it's very important. So it's important that people know more about it, especially if you have big studies like these. And the second one would be to help behavior analysis. This would help them knowing how the brain reacts to certain scenarios, and it'll help them recognize criminal behavior in the future. And that way, we kind of like they're a little bit more alarmed whenever something like that pops up.
All right.